Masterfully done, Ross. Yes, do ask us questions, please. Throw questions in. I have many, but I'm sure seasoned players will have many more. So please do ask away, and we will try and find out as many secrets as we can in the next hour about the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, which is incredibly exciting. Mike, it's really good to get a chance to talk to you. We very rarely get a chance to talk to people about organized play and society, and it is something that's always been really interesting to us since we sort of went to our first PaizoCon UK. So before we get too much into the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries itself, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been with Paizo? How long have you been with organized play itself?
Sure. So I just joined Paizo as a staff member in January this year, 2021. So it's been less than 6 months that I've been on board as staff. I've been playing in organized play on and off since 2010 or so, 2009 maybe. Did some gaming on the Paizo forums and in person a bit. And I started writing for organized play in 2014. So that would be year 6 of Pathfinder First Edition, Pathfinder Society First Edition. So I've been writing for them for a while, and during that time I was also a teacher, so doing the teaching thing, raising a couple of young kids, and so just recently had this big transition in my life, joining the organized play team officially, at first as a organized play developer, supporting mostly Pathfinder Society, and the sort of lead was Thurston Hillman. Things are shuffling around a little bit, which happens, and so I'm sort of stepping in right now, during this last month or so, into more of a lead role with Pathfinder Society.
Exciting. Congratulations. Welcome. Excited for it. Why don't you tell us, for people who are watching who don't play organized play, what is the idea of Paizo organized play, sort of versus playing it just adventure paths with your mates around the pub?
Sure. So the idea of the organized play program in general for both Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society is that you can kind of show up at any other place where people are playing with organized play characters, and you can play together. So you can play with anyone, anywhere. A lot of that has been happening online, of course, lately. But the idea is that you can play at conventions, you can play at game stores, you can also play at home, you can play on message boards, play by post, you can play over video, or virtual tabletop. And your character doesn't have to stick with the same party, but they still get to experience the same story as other people who are doing organized play, and they can jump in and do different scenarios. Scenario is kind of the word we use for the organized play adventures, for the most part. So nice. It's a global program. It's an exciting program. It's just awesome to be able to connect with people and play all over the world, especially when gathering has been so difficult lately.
Absolutely. It's we certainly found that going to sort of our first conventions and not knowing, because we play a lot of Pathfinder, but it's either our own games or it's mostly for the podcast, really. I realized that I've only ever played one game of second edition that wasn't for a stream or a podcast, but that was Society. That was because it was kind of, I need to play this game, and it was really nice to just be able to say, there is a game happening here, and just turn up and be able to have a go at it.
Yeah.
So what is the, so let's look at it in game. What is the Pathfinder Society in Galarian? What is the story? If you turn up with your character, what organization are you joining?
Sure, that's a good distinction to make, because we have the Pathfinder Society organized play program in the real world, and then the Pathfinder Society also exists within the world of the Pathfinder role-playing game. So in the world of the game, the Pathfinder Society is this sort of international group of archaeologists, explorer, adventurer, scholar people, basically, with each individual character that you play is a member of the Pathfinder Society and can have a variety of different goals within the Pathfinder Society, but their overarching goal is to sort of chronicle history. They publish the Pathfinder Chronicles as like stories of their exploits and adventures and accomplishments. So you're going out into the world, doing these adventures, recovering magic items and fighting evil when evil shows up and that kind of thing. It's not expressly a good aligned organization per se, but largely they've been involved in some pretty heroic things in the past.
And like because if you turn up to play and you're playing a higher level than you have a character for, you can play a pre-made. Obviously, you can just take one of the iconic characters and play that. And I like looking through. I think I played the Mesmerist on one of them, and the iconic Mesmerist is evil in first edition.
Right. Yeah.
There's just a note at the top saying this character is evil, but they changed their mind for the sake of Pathfinder Society. Now they're good. Just to keep it together.
You can't be evil in the organized play program. That just helps smooth out, the fact that you might sit down at a table and play with anybody, any stranger at a store, and so it helps make that a little bit more comfortable from that perspective.
Yeah.
Smooth it over a little bit. So we're joining that. So, but the thing, one of the interesting things about society, which I guess will be a big part of your job, are these metaplots. Is that you kind of every year there's a story that kind of ties things together. So how does that work? Is every scenario in a year connected, or are they all kind of spread out and different?
Yeah, so we have started to do something where we tag the metaplot, sort of the big overarching story for any given year. We tag those scenarios with the metaplot tag because they're not all part of that overarching story. There are also sort of one-off adventures where you can sit down, go do the adventure. It's self-contained. It doesn't depend on you knowing earlier parts of the story, and it may not contribute to later parts of the story. It's just go out and explore this ruin that you've discovered underneath the mountain or what have you. And so balancing the metaplot is complicated because on the one hand, you want to tell that ongoing story that gets people coming back and wanting to know what happens and wanting to contribute to the campaign, because we have people kind of submit the reporting notes sometimes of what happened, what decisions were made by the party, and then we look at those and make decisions about the campaign later on. You also don't want too much metaplot that it gets lost on some people if they can't play everything, or if they're brand new coming in and everyone around them knows what happened in 10 previous adventures, but they don't. So it's a difficult thing to balance, and that is a large part of this role, is figuring out exactly how that story is going to play out.
Give us an idea, what are some of the big storylines that have happened in the past with the society before we get into this year's one?
Yeah, I can give you some snippets. In first edition, there was kind of this funny escalation over time of bigger and bigger, more global and like Galarian shattering events occurring as time went on. And you can read a lot more about them in the Pathfinder Society Guide, which is one of the Lost Omens setting books that is out right now, which kind of has an in-world summary written by someone in the world of Galarian, kind of summarizing all of those events and what the Pathfinder Society stands for after all of these things. And so in year 1 of second edition, there was kind of this goal of going back to exploring the history of the Pathfinder Society originally, centuries ago, and exploring what the Pathfinder Society stands for, and kind of turning away from a lot of the politics and there was a plot early in first edition where there was like a lodge within the Pathfinder Society that kind of a faction that turned against the society, and a lot of like political stuff going on. So kind of exploring, well, what do we stand for beyond all of that? Well, we stand for exploration and preservation of knowledge and that kind of thing. So year one involved kind of a going back to the basics and original goals of the Pathfinder Society. And year two, which is not over yet, so I can't spoil how that is going to end. But year two has involved exploring the distant land of Iobaria, which is this very cool place that you can explore right now in the ongoing year two, Year of Corruption's Reach. And so year three, well, I'll wait till you ask.
Well, that is exactly what I'm about to do. So we've had very little. We've had that one blog post about and a name, the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. So what is happening? What is the incident that has kicked off year three? Where are we going in this? So in year three, we're going to look at what has been happening while picture the Grand Lodge in Absalom. So for context, Absalom is this metropolis on an island kind of in the center of the inner sea. So the Grand Lodge is the headquarters of the Pathfinder Society, all these towering spires and kind of this fortress-like edifice, right? And libraries and things like that. So picture the Grand Lodge. There's not very many agents around right now because they've all been off in distant lands exploring. And the end of Pathfinder Society First Edition, which just a couple of years ago, there was this huge event. Many agents were lost. We had this kind of reset. So the Grand Lodge, there's not many people around right now, but they're celebrating. It's the end of year two, which again, I won't spoil, but things have gone well. But then news starts to trickle in from some lodges across the inner sea. So the lodges are the sort of regional headquarters of the society. And they start to get news from Andoran. They start to get news from Cheliax. They start to get news from Osirian. They start to get news from all over, all at once, with all kinds of sudden problems popping up at all these lodges. And they start to wonder, why all at once? Why all over the place? What's going on? Why these places? Why now? And what the heck are we going to do about it? And then there's trouble right on their doorstep in Absalom before they can even figure out what's going on. And that is the intro to the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. So that's the very first scenario, is getting all of this stuff that's suddenly happening and figuring out what the heck is going on. What are we going to do?
Cool. Mike, I've got a couple of questions from our Dangerlings.
Go for it.
Okay, right. Just quickly. Matt Ernest Matt has asked us if can you add Dan as an in-canon NPC in the next release? I mean, I'm not sure this...
this is the next release.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's...
well, those ones are already done. Yeah. The next releases.
Nobody needs that.
But
the next question from Nostrix, Metaplot question. The announcement art for season 3 has a hobgoblin. Is the, now forgive me if I say this incorrectly, Lowlight squad or the nation of Oprak closely involved with season 3 Metaplot?
So it's the Iolite squad.
That's
the first letters
Iolite.
I.
Thank you.
Coincidentally, the year one scenario, Iolite Squad Alpha, where you first meet the hobgoblins from Oprak, and it's kind of this diplomatic mission where you're going out and there's this new nation of hobgoblins, and you're going out to see, like, hey, do you want to maybe send some people to join and train with the society? Let's sort of do this training mission together. Purely by coincidence, I wrote that one. That was the first scenario that I wrote for second edition. And yes, there is a hobgoblin in the preview art. I don't know if you have that shared somewhere, but the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries half-page art preview does have a hobgoblin. That is an NPC who will feature prominently in some of the Year 3 Metaplot. And that is a direct result of the Pathfinder Society's successful relations with this new nation, which kind of gets to one of the themes I'm going to explore in Year 3 is kind of the power of friendship, which sounds a little cheesy maybe, but alliances matter, and the relations that the Pathfinder Society has, both good and bad, are going to be quite important.
Cool. I think it's time for a little giveaway, just quickly, before you go into more detail and more questions. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little old roll of a d6, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 6 people in the chat, and then that person will win the Beginner's Box PDF. And our very own Alakar, Chris, is going to DM you on Twitch to find out your email so that we can get that sent over to you. This is a lovely gift given to us by the guys at Paizo. So, yeah, here we go. I'm going to roll my d6 and probably going to roll rubbish. So here we go. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is...
If you say Hoss Ramsden.
No. I mean, it was the Moobot. But what I'm going
to... Don't count the Moobot.
Yeah. What I'm going to do, it is our very own Mad Turnips has won the Beginner's Box. Yay!
Oh, congratulations.
I'm not sure if he's got it already. We'll find out. We'll get... we already kind of have your email anyway, actually. So... there you go. You are the winner of the Beginner's Box. Yay. Well done, Matt.
Yay. Congratulations.
So, let's carry on, Dan.
The Beginner's Box is lovely. It's a really, really nice thing. We reviewed it on the show ages ago when it first came out, but it's a really nice way to learn the game. I really like this idea of talking about alliances and things, because it's something that seems to come up as a plot in scenarios a lot of the time, is kind of... go here and do this thing because we want to be friends with these people, and that's kind of the whole point of it. So is that a conscious thing to kind of bring that around and show that those scenarios mean something?
Yeah, kind of a lot of Year 1 in 2nd edition was about establishing these relationships, and there's an entire faction of the Pathfinder Society. One of the 4 main factions is sort of devoted to going out and fostering relationships and building alliances. And frankly, the Pathfinder Society needs a lot of help right now because of the events of Year 10 and this sort of reset that has taken place, and other world events. And of course, the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries is not going to go easy on them. So I do want to pay off those stories whenever possible.
That's nice. We've had times like that. I feel like, Ross, in the podcast, where you guys are kind of... there's this assumption that the Pathfinder Society are like the Avengers, and it's kind of like, well, this looks pretty big. Should we just hand this off to the Pathfinder Society? And there's kind of... I'm there with my Lost Omen Society book, and I'm like, you guys have no idea how much trouble the society is in at the moment.
Yeah, we're like, you can solve this world-ending problem. Here you go. You guys do that. We're just gonna go in and do a shopping episode. See ya, bye.
Another interesting thing to explore, though, is that the society has caused no ends of problems themselves in their meddling around the world, and so. A lot of that was resolved with the transition to 2nd edition, but not necessarily all of it. And I taught history myself and literature, and so I want to explore this idea of you can't just sort of press reset on your past and just move forward with everything and kind of ignore all of the good things and bad things that have happened. And so we're going to be revisiting some stuff that might be nostalgic for a few people, but it's going to be one of those balancing acts again for me to figure out how much do we reward players with past knowledge of previous plots versus keeping things friendly and interesting and engaging for new players and not overwhelming them. So it's going to be one of those balancing acts again.
I'm really interested in that as a sort of creative exercise, because you've got such a broad range of experience of in terms of people, how much experience people have got with the story that they're doing. You know, there have been people who've been playing Society for a decade now, and yet there are people who've sort of turned up and this is their first game. Like how do you go about trying to create a story that will be rewarding for people who've been playing it for that long, but also be still accessible? Is that kind of one of the main challenges?
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of the time we reward players who've been playing for a really long time just with like little Easter eggs and things like that, or by revisiting prior plots. But a lot of the sort of lore is like front loaded for the game master, but may not necessarily come out in the scenario. One of the things we're going to try and do as much as possible is to, even though we're revisiting these regions and lodges that have been around for a long time, you know, a decade of organized play, we want to, part of the goal is we've kind of ignored some of these places for a year or two, and we want to bring new players up to speed with those areas. And so it's kind of, let's check in on some of these places and see what's going on and see about what has changed. And by looking at kind of what has changed, we'll be able to also keep new players on their toes. So it's, oh, I've seen this place before. Oh, but it's a little bit different now. Something new is happening. That'll be interesting for both new players and old players, and kind of put everyone on the same page.
Nice. I noticed we've got the because obviously we talked about it a couple of times. We had Lost Omens Pathfinder Society relatively recently. Again, I think we talked about it on the show, and that's one of my favorite parts of that is the descriptions of all of the different lodges around Golarion, and lots of detail on that. So do I get the impression from this that we're going to be getting to visit some of those places? So anyone who's picked up this book knew that we might get a chance to actually visit some of these places across the year.
Yeah, we're going to try as much as possible to, you know, we only have so many scenarios, and you don't want to spread everything too thin. A lot of the lodges we're going to be exploring are not prominently featured in that guide, which features a lot of the newer ones or the more widespread ones that we've been exploring for the last 2 years of the current plot. So we're going to be visiting some of those locations, but also exploring some of the ones that have been neglected in the story, for better or worse, and kind of updating the story for those places and seeing, well, what's happened there. So you can certainly expect to visit some of the more prominent locations and some that maybe we haven't seen for a little while.
Ooh.
I want to go back to Nexus House. I love Nexus House with the self-cleaning Pathfinder Lodge. I think is just a wonderful, such a lovely bit of lore. Let's talk about the launch of Shattered Sanctuaries then, shall we? What are we getting on day one? It's releasing at PaizoCon Europe, isn't it, rather than Gen Con,
which is August 19th to the 22nd, I think, are the dates there. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a, I guess, first of all, what's the decision behind releasing it for PaizoCon Europe rather than it? Because it's not, it would normally be a Gen Con release, wouldn't it, the new season?
Yeah, that question would be more for kind of the operations side. Okay. There's a lot that goes into that kind of thing, with the pandemic causing conventions to do what they need to do these days, and our own schedules. So I can't answer that really thoroughly, but that's when it's coming out.
Okay.
So,
but what are we getting? We're like, we're getting 3 scenarios, are we, on day one?
Yes. So the first 2 scenarios are, we're calling them Intro 1 and Intro 2. So if you have played some Starfinder since PaizoCon very recently, you'll be familiar with this structure that we're doing. So Intro 1 and Intro 2 are not, strictly speaking, part of Year 3, the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. Intro 1 and Intro 2 are intended as scenarios that are, first of all, they're repeatable, so you can come back and play them with new characters as many times as you want, or you can continue getting credit for running these as much as you want, and applying that to your characters as a GM. So these repeatable scenarios are kind of an introduction to what even is the Pathfinder Society and what are the factions of the Pathfinder Society. So really establishing the baseline, and they're really aimed at newer players, but again, anyone can play them. And then the third scenario is Intro 3, but it's also the first adventure of the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. So it's the introduction to the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. So if you play these 3 scenarios in order, you're going to get an introduction to what is the Pathfinder Society and kind of who are some of the main people involved in that. What are the various factions of the society and what do they stand for? And what's going on with the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. And then in the future, like Year 4, Year 5, the intention is that we'll update that season intro scenario, but you can still play Intro 1 and Intro 2, and they'll still be relevant in the future for new players for a long time. That's the goal.
I've got a little question just from me. So if you are wanting to join, so say you wanted to join at the beginning of like the season 3, how would players be able to find out about what happened in the previous? Is there documents on the Paizo website, or are there people at these conventions to like just do like a sum up, like a little synopsis of what happened, just as like someone new to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally speaking, I'd say that we encourage people to really continue playing even the prior years. They don't go away. They're still there. People still run and play those. They still run and play first edition, or like early stuff. And so as much as possible, I'd say the best way to experience those is play them.
Yeah.
So with Year 3, Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, we're trying to provide like a fresh start where things are going to make sense right from the get-go. You might get some lore here and there from the prior years, but it's not like required that you know exactly what happened. And if you're like looking to like sum it up, play some of the Metaplot. Maybe go out and ask like, well, which are the main story beats that I'd be able to experience here? You know, each one is just one session, 4 or 5 hours. Some of them can run a little bit long sometimes, but go cool. Hit those main story beats, and certainly you can find GMs or volunteers who are willing to kind of help you get those main pieces.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I adapted Burden of Envy for the Jasper's Game Day live stream with Jason Ballman as one of the players, and to make it sort of appeal to Jason, adapted it to be set in Razmaran rather than in New Thalassian. And I can tell you that if you let Jason Ballman talk about Razmaran, you will definitely run your scenario over its allotted time.
Yes,
we had a lot of fun in that. But that's an interesting thing, is you because I New Thalassian is something that is really interesting about the setting and hasn't really been explored particularly, and maybe a little bit in some adventure parts. But one of the nice things that Society does is that it does sort of it does hop around Golarion, and it does visit a lot of places that aren't necessarily explored yet in adventure paths or in other books. Does there have to be a lot of communication between you and the rest of Paizo regarding kind of when you're going off to all of these different places that might be involved in other things, or can you just travel all over the world and do what you like?
Well, we certainly try and communicate and coordinate when possible. There have been past seasons and past adventure paths where things sort of tie together more or less than others, and so it's not always like we're always in lockstep, where the Pathfinder Society is always doing something related to the current adventure path. Sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't, and so we're always kind of trying to coordinate and make those decisions for what's going to be the best story from an organized play perspective. And yeah.
Is it quite, it sounds like it's quite freeing. Is it quite exciting to have that freedom to be, because obviously at the moment most of the main published stuff is taking place in Mwangi and Garand, and which is an area that kind of society has helped develop a lot in the past with scenarios. Is it quite nice to be able to break free from where the rest of the company is and explore new places?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain freedom that comes with the fact that we do digital adventures, and so there's a lot less lead time because we don't have to do printing. And I don't need to get into all the logistics, and I don't know a lot of the printing logistics myself, but we can change our plans a lot faster and be a lot more flexible, and we are free to, in many ways, we can't just do whatever we want in organized play, nor would we. We want to coordinate with the other products and things like that. But yeah, it is nice to not be so tied in, months or years in advance to, well, this is what needs to go to the printer, so this is what we have to do. And that also allows us to make slight changes to plots based on like reporting notes from truly make it a living sort of campaign where people are contributing to the story rather than it being like, this is the published thing, set in stone, unchangeable, way in advance.
I think one of the really exciting things that's happened in organized play in the last few years was a recent season of Starfinder Society, where the players got to choose the new seeker of the Starfinder Society. Their actions actually resulted in a player becoming a character in the campaign. Is that something you'd like to do with PFS? Is having kind of actual player impact, affect the world to that degree?
Yes, is the short answer to the question. I have a little notebook right here with some very interesting lists that I've been making of possible reporting notes for future scenarios and possible ways to make those have an impact. Oh yes.
One of those notes is make Dan an NPC. There's a lot of talk, literally as you asked that, Matt asked the same question, and there's a lot of talk. It's really nice in the chat. There's a lot of guys who are experienced in society play, and also new guys who don't know about it, which they're all talking about the same thing you are, Mike, and how certain things can shape different avenues as you do this society play, which is really cool. I think I'll just talk about like a little bit of experience, like when me, Dan, and Scott went to PaizoCon, and we went to a Starfinder game, and it was a big Starfinder game. There was multiple things happening at the same time, and there was people were doing another mission over in the other side of the room, and like it all coalesced to like a big thing right at the end, which was really cool. And I really like that. I like that there can be other games and other people doing other missions of a big mission, which is really cool. Really, really excited to play a Pathfinder version, because I think we wanted to go onto the Pathfinder one, but it was I think it was really booked out, and also we felt like we would be jumping into something massive and not knowing what was going on. But like you said, as you said, Mike, you said like you guys, you can jump in, and there are people, like it said, Winter Green UK said, the venture officers, the volunteers are always happy to talk about the lore, fill you in on the history, but also encourage you to just jump in and play. Not every character starts knowing all the stuff that's happened previously, which is really cool, So yeah.
That we tried to book on to the end of Pathfinder 1 scenario, effectively multi-table event with lots of tables playing different scenarios that all lead to one story. By the time we went to book it, the only slot that was left was on like the highest, it was like level 15 or like the highest level tier and on hard mode with 2 spaces left on it. And I sort of thought, we can't, the 2 of us can't turn up to this table with no experience of high level play, really. And just like, if we turn up and just TPK these people's characters who have been playing forever, we're going to get a run out of
second edition, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's the point. The spirit of the show.
Mike, just quickly, how like in terms of scope, how long does it take you, and also how many are in your team to create this whole year's story? Like, I know you obviously said there's key moments in it, so there's not literally every like adventure. Some things can be standalone, but how many sort of key story points do you have over the year, and how long does it take you guys to write something like that?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked, because this story, the overarching plot for year 3, was not my creation. So Thurston Hillman, who previously was our Starfinder Society developer before moving over and doing Pathfinder Society for a little while before, or as I came on board, he was still doing Pathfinder Society. So this is his sort of creation, this plot, this year 3. And so it's one of the first things that I kind of learned about and experienced when I came on earlier this year, was this process of pitching this plot and outlining it and talking it over with some other folks at Paizo and deciding what was going to happen. And so it's been in the works for several months, and it's still in the works. I've been GMing for quite some time myself, and I'm looking at this kind of like I would look at a campaign that I was outlining for my, a home group of players. There's a lot of different possible endings to this, and I have some ideas, and as we move forward through the year, things will come into place and fall into place. Certainly, I need to figure out what happens by the time that I'm assigning any given adventure for an author to write it. But really, the planning isn't over until a while from now, and it started a while ago. So like an entire, year's plot it takes a lot. There's a lot of time spent leading up to it, and there's a lot of time just spent over the course of the year sort of seeing how things are shaping up and what people are interested in pursuing and what choices they make.
So sort of the end goal is, you've got the end goal in sight, but stuff may change along the way as you progress through the year. Not drastically, I assume, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain decisions that we need to make ahead of time, and some flexibility within that. One of my goals this year, since this is my first year that I'm going to be sort of leading the plot, picking up what Thirsty created and carrying it forward, is to kind of try some new things, maybe, but also just get a feel myself for what kind of stories people are enjoying, and see what we can and can't do as far as players impacting the story and making decisions, and just kind of learn the ropes a little bit. So
cool. Dan, just before you carry on, I'm going to do another giveaway. We're going to give away the core rulebook now. We're going to give Aaron. Aaron was on earlier, and he said we're going to give whoever hasn't got anything, we'll give something to who. If you've got a copy of whatever I'm saying now, he'll give you something. We'll give you guys something else, which is nice.
He's generous, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very generous. So here we go. I'm going to roll my d6. Here we go. Amy Mad Mophead is the winner of our core rulebook. Yay!
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations, Amy. Well done.
You're going to need that.
So yeah, there you go. So Alakar's going to get in touch with you. I mean, we already know your email as well anyway, but cool. Yeah, well done, Amy. Yeah.
That is a weighty PDF.
Yeah, nice. All right, back to you, Dan. Sorry.
Learning the game. Nice. I tell you what, I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna ask you a really specific question that one of our listeners gave us, who's already been in, Nostrix, who is an experienced society GM who taught the two of us to play Starfinder and has run us a bunch of scenarios when we went to cons and stuff. He had a look at the artwork. He noticed in the promo art there are a lot of faction symbols hanging up on all of the banners there, but the symbols on those banners are not the current factions. Those are the retired factions.
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about that? Is that a hint? Is that hinting at something?
They're not just the retired factions, they're the factions we retired before the factions we retired. So these are the OG factions. So those symbols you may recognize from back in the day when the factions of the Pathfinder Society represented nations in the Inner Sea region. You can maybe go and look some of those symbols up, see which nations we might be exploring and revisiting. We're not going to be going back to an earlier system for factions. We have these factions in place. Those do change from time to time. So I'm not saying that they are set in stone forever, the current faction system, which is more factions that represent various goals of the society, like exploration, cooperation, chronicling knowledge, that kind of thing. But the old factions were very much like, let's represent the interests of Kadira or Osirian. And that may give you a hint as to perhaps some of the places you might get to go.
I felt like we were close to getting you to confirm a time travel storyline. Nearly. How important is society as a place for giving space for new writers and new designers within Paizo? I know that seems to be where a lot of people, whenever we talk to people in Paizo, society is where they start off. Is that an important sort of function of it, is to give people that space?
I mean, in my mind, speaking personally, that's kind of where I got started. So it's, I think so. One of the products we've been making for a little while now is Bounties. So Pathfinder Bounties, which are not directly part of the Pathfinder Society. It's more like, what side missions can we tell that you might be a Pathfinder Society person and you might not be a Pathfinder Society person. But they're shorter adventures. They're like an hour, about a quarter the length of a full scenario. And we've been expressly using those recently to kind of train people up in adventure writing. It's a very specific sort of skill. I'm okay at writing adventures, I like to think, but I'm less comfortable and familiar with like designing new rules or like new player options. I've been GMing all my life, not playing very much personally. So like adventure writing is something where even if you are very comfortable writing rules or monsters, class options, magic items, we still want to sort of train people up to write adventures. So throwing someone into a big scenario assignment has happened and does help train people up, and sometimes people do well in that environment, but we've been trying to use bounties to sort of fill that role as much as possible and ease people into writing adventures, because it can kind of be like a big heavy assignment to jump into a full scenario all at once. It works for some folks, but as much as possible we try and ease people in.
Nostrix has a question for you again. Who or what is holding the dagger in the Year 3 announcement artwork? Onyx Alliance, perhaps? Question mark.
Well,
This is Mike trying to go. I can't
let's
really,
see. I mean, the shot is you see them from behind. I'll let you draw your own conclusions based on what you see in that picture. But as far as I'm concerned, the way to find out who that is to go stand next to that hobgoblin there with your own sword or spells or fists, what have you, and face them yourselves.
Nice. Good
nice,
answer.
nice.
Um, I do interrupt if we have any questions, Ross, because I'll go on. But if we're one of the interesting things, because we're obviously this is launching at PaizoCon Europe. We play here. We're here in London. We play in London. How does the experience of playing Pathfinder Society differ around the world? Is it kind of, how do you get involved regionally, and if you want to play in this?
I mean, around the world, that's a big question because it's going to vary from place to place, of course. But we do have a sort of Discord hub for organized play events. The link, of course, is going to slip my mind right now, and I don't want to lead anyone astray. But on Paizo.com, we have lists of regional coordinators with contact information. We have, I would say, go on. I think it's go to Paizo.com, and there we have an easy URL that I should be able to just like blah right now, but of course it's slipping my mind. So someone
We
can
will
drop
put
it in chat. And
Yeah,
you
I
can
think
share
some.
it
I
out
think
for me.
Yeah.
So we've had a few in the past, and I don't want to say like the
Wrong one.
wrong one, but
Yeah.
Paizo.com/organized play is one that you can go to, and that has ask on our forums or go onto the Discord, the Paizo events Discord, and you should be able to find, if you can't find someone in your area playing, you can find people to play with online these days. Basically everybody has figured out how to game online, and so some regions might have a very strong presence in any given city, others not so much. That's true within any, that's true in the US as well. But there's always somebody to play with in the current environment. And I'd encourage you to check out that Discord.
Yeah, Nostrix is one of the venture officers for the UK, and he said he's happy to help any Dangerlings regardless of geography, which is nice. Oh, that's a nice. We do love Nostrix.
There's his stuff. How has that changed? Because it's obviously you've taken over at about the weirdest time in history, really, in terms of how we game. And we've recorded loads of episodes in this show about how the way we game has changed completely, and how the way we do conventions and things. How has remote play changed the way you approach writing for PFS and designing PFS? Is it a big part now of what you think about?
Well, we're having to rethink some of the things like the big interactive special events that used to involve 1,000 people in a room together all at the same time, all passing pieces of paper around and contributing in that way. You were talking about some of those events earlier. And so we're having to rethink kind of how we structure those. I don't know that it impacts our storytelling per se, but we have to reconsider, well, how are we having people contribute all at the same time, given that we're in this weird remote play situation? Like you said, I hopped on board during the middle of all of this. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the way it's been since I've been at Paizo. It's just like doing this weird remote stuff. So I don't know. I should reach out and ask some people who've been here through the transition, kind of how their storytelling has changed. One of the things that I hope to do moving forward, I know some people are going to be playing in person again, but online play is a reality now for us And I think it's going to continue to be a big presence. We've had this year of people figuring out how to do virtual tabletops and how to schedule online games. And one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot more is kind of how that might impact ongoing stories, in that I think the variety of people you might be playing with is different now. In person, you probably see the same people at the store every week or 2 weeks, you know, rotating people, but maybe the same core group. Some people, I think, playing online have stuck with those groups of people that they would normally see in person. But I know a lot of people are playing with a wider variety of other players. And so how do we keep things a little consistent for people, given that they might be jumping around with like lots of different characters and other players all the time? It's something I'm pondering. I don't have a good answer for it just yet, but it's on my mind.
It's an interest. It's one of the things I love about, again, going back to how supportive the society is as a real world thing. People are always happy to help with virtual tabletops and things. When I've had to run scenarios, there's always somebody who's sort of said, oh, here we go. I've prepped this on Roll20, or I've prepped this on a thing. Here's what you need to be able to run it. There's a lot of support there between people who GM for it in terms of sharing those resources.
Matt says that has anyone played on Toolspire? It's fantastic. Apparently, we use it for remote D&D. It's full 3D environments for RPG, which is quite cool. Sounds quite good. So check that out, Toolspire. I have one other question from Matt again. He's loving all the questions. He said, Mike, have you considered guesting as a player on the DCP? But then you don't really play. You GM, don't you? So
well,
you're more than welcome to come onto the Danger Club podcast. Obviously,
I could dust off some dice and a character sheet at some point, but I'd need to be invited first. So I think I just was. No, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't want to pressure you on live on Twitch, so it's fine. Yeah.
It's great to have another GM. I'll take a night off. It's great.
Yeah, can we get it while I'm on the clock? Actually, that'd be nice. Just call my manager. What's it like? We're running out of time. I'm because you're kind of new to developing it. What's it been like just taking over this juggernaut straight away with a plot line that's kind of been half developed? And like, has there been a long transition period, or did Thirsty sort of throw it all at you and said, don't kill the iconics and you'll be okay? Thirsty's been great in supporting me and laying the foundation, but also recognizing, and this happened when he transitioned Starfinder over to Jenny as well. He's great at saying, I've been telling this story and this is what I've had in mind, but it's your baby now. And so there's a lot of work involved, and it has been kind of frantic to figure out what I want to do and whether it's my time to make my mark or if I need to like cool it a little bit. I keep having to like rein myself in a little, and I have some notes where I'm like, no, that couldn't possibly, no, I would never want to do that. Not right away, not my first year. So there's a lot of kind of figuring out exactly what stance I'm going to take as a developer and a storyteller here. It's exciting. It's kind of a thrill to be in this position and in this role, but it is a lot of stress because I want to do well, of course, and tell a cool story.
I was going to say, do you feel pressure as well, or do you think it's just stress?
I think pressure might be a better word, really, because there's so many people who are going to enjoy the story. There's so many cool stories that have come before the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. we're revisiting a lot of areas that other people have done very cool things in. And so to make a mark and do something new and different and exciting there's certainly pressure there. But I think we have strong authors, freelance authors. We have players who are supportive and welcoming of each other. I think that the campaign is going to be a success, however much I may, screw up any given plot. I think it's going to be cool anyway, because people are going to have fun. So,
right, Dan, we're coming to near the end. We've got we've just breached the hour mark.
Let's give away a book.
Yeah, I think we should give away the final prize, which is the bestiary or bestiary or bestiary. I say bestiary because it's
bestiary.
Yeah, bestiary 3. Which only came out a couple of months ago, so this is pretty cool. I want it, so
I'm going to be using it. So Year of Shattered Sanctuaries is going to need some pretty nasty monsters.
Yeah. So let us go and roll a dice. The winner of the Bestiary 3 is Ruth Arnold. You are the winner of the Bestiary 3. Yay!
Congratulations. That is, and commiserations to your players who are now going to have to deal with tooth fairy swarms.
Yeah, exactly.
Horrible things in that. Mike, we're running out of time. One final question. Tell us one thing about the new season which is going to make somebody who has played Pathfinder Society for a while excited, that's going to make them want to rush out and play this on day one.
Well, there's going to be some Pathfinder Tales novels from back in the day that have some cool links to some of our plots here. So you don't need to have read them, but if you have, and if you've experienced some of those related plots in prior seasons, then you might go, "Oh, who went missing? What? We gotta go." So that's all I'm going to say.
That has certainly made me excited about it. Amazing. Mike, do you want to tell everyone how they can follow you, where they can find your stuff, as well as Society?
Sure. So, I post Society updates on the Paizo blog, paizo.com. I'm on there. You can message me on there. Just find me as Mike Kimmel. I'm also on Twitter. I'm not very good at using Twitter, but I do hype Pathfinder Society on there. And so I'm at _Mike Kimmel, MikeKimmel. And I try and tag it with the hashtag Pathfinder Society when I'm hyping stuff.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you, Mike, ever so much for taking time out of your day working hard to come here and speak to us at the Danger Club. It's super exciting. I'm excited. Everyone else is excited to see the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries come to fruition. I'd just like to say thanks, Mike, for coming. Dan, I think there's only one thing left to say, and that's goodbye. So it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye. If you've enjoyed this, DangerClubPodcast.com. If you're new to us, check out our YouTube or any of our past episodes where we play around in Pathfinder Society scenarios. There's a bunch of them. But thank you. Have a lovely week. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, and thank you, Mike. And it's goodbye from me as well. And remember, as always stay Wednesday.
Stall is in bits all around you, so that's fine. You can grab a bit of wood from that, and that works because you've got one action left. Philippe is a little way back from combat, so one action to step up into combat, another one to make an attack. Go ahead, make a monkey attack.
All right, monkey attack.
I wonder if his insurance will cover this.
Do a claw for the to hit, and then just reduce the damage by 1d6 because it's improvised weapon. That's fair.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. I'll have to roll the attack first.
You do.
I feel like I haven't played this ever. I don't know what's happening.
It's all been a dream. It's all been a dream.
Okay, so 22.
It was all a dream.
Carry on.
I used to read Word Up magazine.
For some reason, my brain was like Game Master magazine. I was like, Biggie Smalls didn't read Game Master magazine.
Patrick Moore up on the TV screen.
He's got a silver dome.
Oh my goodness, what'd you get?
So 22.
22's a
22.
22's a